Well, hello everyone. It's Wednesday, and yesterday was supposed to be my big shopping day, but it didn't happen. The weather forecasted to be like this big weather event, high winds and heavy rains and all that. So I got a hold of Sue and I'm like, I'd rather not be out driving in that. Can we reschedule for Thursday? So she agreed, and tomorrow I get to go down south, and Sue and I are going to hit up Joann's and Michael's, and I'll get to hopefully they still have it in stock, get some of that Big Twist Posh. So the weatherman, I think, over exaggerated because, at least in my area, it wasn't as bad as they said it was going to be, but I still wouldn't have wanted to be out there driving in it. So instead of that, I spent the day crocheting. And I bought this bundle package, a farm set from Coffee and Crochet. And they have it set up like 3 ways. You can get a small pack. The cats. You can get a small pack that has 4, then the next size has 10, and then there's a bigger package that includes their birds. But I was like, there are plenty of free bird patterns out there. I don't need, in this style, I don't need to purchase the biggest package. But I did purchase the 10 pack. And I made 8 out of the 10. Now, the 2 that I didn't do was because it was kind of like a duplicate with a slight variation of another one that was in the package. Not to mention it was getting late and I was getting tired. So I bought the farm pack because I'm going to be doing this farmer's market starting in April, and I thought it would, just kind of like fit in with the theme because I'll be out there in farm country, even though I'm going to be on a berry farm. So I'm going to have to I have a blueberry pattern. I need to come up with like a strawberry pattern and a couple of other berries, since that's where I'm going to be at, just to test it out. I don't know that they'll sell, but just to test it out. So this package that I bought, I did not print this one out this time because it's 30 pages. So I was stuck at the computer and I just did a split screen so that I could have like Netflix on half the screen and the pattern on the other half of the screen, because 30 pages was a lot. Now, if I wanted to be in a different room or anything, then of course I would have had to print it out so I can come out and be around people, but then these require a lot of counting and people would want to be talking, and then I would be making a lot more mistakes than the mistakes I was making as it was. So anyways, I just went down the list of how the patterns were listed in the package, and with the exception of the 2 that I skipped over. So the first one was this cow. And I used the same colors that they suggested on most of them. So this little cow, now it is basically no-sew except for the cow's nose. And they look like they would be really simple, but with all of these color changes, it was a little more difficult than I expected. So this one was my first one, and I think he turned out really cute. I'm not super fond of this pink as the nose color, but like I said, I was just following the color suggestions in the pattern for most of them. So he turned out pretty sweet. The biggest thing I struggled with, believe it or not, was the ears. Because, I don't know, I just struggled with the ears. So he's short, he's chubby, he's squishy, and these are like stress balls. So we did the cow, Then the next one on the list was a pig. And it said to use pink, but I used rose. It's kind of a pink. So his nose is a little bit different. It's a round circle instead of making, an oval shape. And again, you just sew this on. Now this one was much easier because there were absolutely no color changes. And he's got his curly tail and the little ears. Again, the ears were the hardest part for me. Now basically each one of these, with the exception of one, all have the same number of rounds. They're all basically the same shape. The differences are the colors and the way the ears and tails are done. So we have the cow and the pig. The next one was this. Now, when I look at this and Jenna looks at this, we see a cat. When John looked at this, he saw a gerbil. One of these days, I'm going to make up a bunch and not let him see them as I'm making. And I'm going to have him get on camera with me and show him what the plushie and have him try and guess what it is. Because he is like 95% of the time, never even close to what it's supposed to be. Now, if I did that with Jenna, she would guess it right every single time. She sees it. She sees it like we see it. He does not see it like we see it. So I did the cat, and there were just 2 color changes in this one for 2 of the feet. I didn't use orange because I needed the orange to finish another project. So I used my mustard color, which I think looks a little closer to like a ginger cat, maybe. But he turned out okay. But I think next time I would use a safety nose instead of stitching it on, because I just think a safety nose would look cuter on it, make it look more like a cat and not a gerbil. So we have the cow, the pig, and the cat. The next one on the list was a dog. Now, this one had some color changes, and it did say to use a safety nose. They called for 9mm eyes, and I didn't have any. So some of them I used a 10, and I think a couple of them I used a 12mm eye on. So he had a few color changes. Now, because I struggled with the ears on the first 3, when I made the ears, I made the ears first, and then I crocheted them in versus trying to attach and then crochet it on to the animal itself. So I did do the ears a little different this time. I had to play with it a little bit to make sure, I was trying to get them somewhat even. But I like the dog. The dog, he turned out cute. I think you could do all kinds of different colors with this little one and come up with some really cute looking dogs. So we have the cow, the pig, the cat, and the dog. The next one that was on the list, I'm hoping I have these in the right order. Not that it makes any difference, but I just wanted to do them in order. So the next one was this. Now, it said to use a pink nose, but I used a light gray because everything else was gray and black. And I think the nose is too similar to the cow. It is different from the pig in this pattern package, but to me that looks like a pig nose. But this is supposed to be a donkey with its big floppy ears and the little curly hair. So the fluff everywhere. The color changing was minimal. It was just for the feet. You stitch the hair, you surface stitch it, and then the tail. I think the tail, they said to do it in gray, but I did it in black just because I felt like it needed a little bit more black on it. But I like the donkey too. It's cute, and it was easier because it didn't have a whole ton of color changes. So now we have a cow, a pig, a dog, a gerbil cat, and the donkey. The next one on the list was a fairly simple pattern. Well, the basic shape on them all is fairly simple, but because of the color changing, that's where degree of difficulty comes in. And the ears were easy on this one. So this one is a little sheep. Now that I've made them once, I think that I'll have to, it's hard because you're starting from the bottom up and the feet are made first. So it's kind of hard to adjust your bobble stitches to make it look even. But I think this one turned out a little bit off center. So I'm not sure. I'd have to make it a few more times to see what I need to adjust to make it not look off center. But this one, absolutely no sewing. You do the surface stitch for the little ears and the tail. So no sewing. So this one was easy. So now we have a cow, a pig, a dog, a gerbil cat, a donkey, and a little sheep or lamb, whatever you want to call it. Then I was like, oh, I'm tired of doing the animals. I want to do the little farmer that came with it. So I did the farmer guy. And this one, again, same basic shape. This one has a few more rows. I think those are 14 rounds and this one is 18 rounds. So it's a little taller. No sewing, but you have to be careful with the color changes. So like I'm sitting there crocheting along and I didn't catch when I was up here at the hairline that I was supposed to change color to the hat, and I just kept on going and I'm like, how tall is this guy's hair gonna be? So I had to pull out a few rounds of the brown and start over with the mustard. And I think this was the second to the last one that I did, so I was starting to get a little tired. My butt was getting a little sore from sitting there, and you know, on this one, when you get to the second arm, I think you need to move it over one stitch so that it looks straighter. Like, you see the distance between that arm and this shoe? And then on that side, it's not the same. So I think that bobble on this one needs to be moved over one stitch, at least for my tension. So there were two styles that you could do with the hat, and I wanted to have it look more like the cowboy hat, because you could have done it where it's going down like a straw hat type deal. But I wanted it to have more of that cowboy hat look. So we have the farmer, and I was going to stop there, but I didn't. So I did one more animal. It had a horse in there. And the horse, again, I think something needs to be different with this. I'm not sure what. I'll have to think on it because they all look like pig noses to me. But here's the little horse, and this one I used, instead of Parfait Chunky, this tannish color from Hobby, the Honey Bunny. Because I had ordered, when I had to place an order for my temperature blanket, I went ahead and ordered a couple just so that I could test out the yarn. And this was one of the colors that I did. And it has more of a tan look than the two colors that I have in Parfait, which is mushroom and toffee. So this looked more tan. And then I did the mane, the tail, and the feet in chocolate, I think, but Parfait Chunky. So, and I did the tail different because it calls for the tip of the tail to have like little strings, but that's exactly what it would end up being, is a string with no fluff. So I just came up with my own way to do the tail. And He's pretty easy. They're all easy once you get used to the pattern. The thing that threw me off, and I don't know how it happened in it, but you start off with 8, and you're doing your increases, and then somehow you end up with 37. And I thought I had made a mistake. So I pulled it out and I went back and I redid it. And I pulled it out and I went back and I redid it. And then I'm looking at the pattern and I added up the stitches to see if they came out to what they were saying. And it did. But somehow you get to 37. So having the odd number kind of threw me off a little. But I figured it out. We worked our way through it. So I did the horse. The only 2 that I did not do is they had one for a Highland cow and a little girl farmer, which is basically the same as this, except that you put little braids on it. I would come up with a different way to do the hair because, again, you would have just little strings hanging there because all the fluff would just go away. So I would have to think about a different way to do the hair to make the little girl farmer. But I just thought having the little farm pack to take to this farmer's market that is on a berry farm would be cute. And now that I'm familiar with the way the pattern is written and with how it is worked up, the next go around would be super easy. Well, maybe not super easy, but a whole lot easier. So that's what I made yesterday. And the night before, I started to do another mallard duck lovey because I had showed you guys my mallard duck last time and the pattern called for doing a bean stitch, and I kind of knew that I did something wrong, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what I did wrong. So I went and, of course, did a search on YouTube. YouTube is a wonderful source of information to see what did I do wrong with my bean stitch. Well, it is supposed to lean to the side like I thought. So a bean stitch is very similar to a puff stitch. And a puff stitch is, you yarn over, stick your hook through the stitch, pull up your loop, yarn over again, stick your hook through the stitch, pull it through, yarn over, however many times that it calls for. Well, a bean stitch, you go into the stitch, pull through a loop, and then you start the whole yarn over process like you do with a puff stitch. And by not yarning over first, that is what's going to help it lean. Hence why mine turned out so much bigger. I did it wrong. So I decided I want to make another one because I want to know what it's supposed to really look like. So this one was the one that I did first and messed up my bean stitch. Now he's super floppy. He's nice and loose and soft. I still think he turned out really good. I'm not going to throw him in a misfit box or anything. I think he turned out nice. But then this is the one with the bean stitch. The stitches are much closer together. No little fingers are going to get stuck in it. Now I still did my own colors in the main, the pattern itself. All of this, including the wings, is all the same color as this. I wanted to add in the darker brown. I just think it looks a whole lot more attractive. So when you get to this part here, it tells you to end off and then you're going to start over at the corner for attaching the wings. That's when I made my color change so that the chest and the wings all blend together. And I still did not do that whole knotted part where you make it real long and tie a knot at the tip of the wing. The pattern says to do that in the same color as the neck so that the little tips of the wing are the same color as you do your neck. I just didn't want to struggle with tying the knot. So size difference is quite a bit, because it still looks nice. And it's really soft. This is soft, but not as, doesn't have the same amount of drape as it does like this. But this is how it's supposed to look. Other than the colors, because I did my own thing with the colors. And even though this was Parfait Chunky, and I always use, well, 99.9% of the time I use a 5mm hook with Parfait Chunky. The pattern called for a 5.5, so I used a 5.5. And this is how it came out. But I think it looks really cute. When I was talking about the loveys in the last video, Peggy made a comment down in the comments that she uses patterns that are by Mama Made Minis, and she said they were quick and easy to do. The cats are fighting. So she said they were quick and easy to do, so I went to check it out. So I found their website, and you could do downloads and just get individual packages, but I would rather have the book. So I ordered the book. They're knotted loveys, and it just came in yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to make any of them yet. But reading through it, there's a few in here. There are a few in here that I want to try. I just have to decide which one to try first. On the website, I mean, look at them all. On the website, it says that they use Premier Basics Chenille, which is not as big as Bernat, but it's a little bit bigger than Parfait Chunky. Not as difficult to work with as Bernat, but not as smooth to work with as Parfait Chunky. So I don't know what I want to do first. It has like fantasy style loveys, which include a dinosaur, a dragon, a unicorn, and a yeti. Then there are farm animals. You have a chick, a cow, a goose. Now the goose, I want to make the goose. I know that, but I don't know if I want to do it first. And a little lamb. Then there's like wild, say, safari type animals. There's an elephant, a hippo, a monkey, and a panda bear. And then you have your woodland, which has a fawn, or a deer, a fox, a rabbit, and a toad. Maybe we can call it a frog. Toads give you warts. So there are 4, 8, 12, 16 patterns in this book. There's minimal sewing required from what I've looked at. So like there's the monkey. And for the monkey it says required sewing is arms and tail. When I look at it and I'm looking at the direction of the stitches, I'm like, how are you attaching that head? The only way for me to find out is I'm going to have to actually make one. The hippo looks really cute. Elephant, I'm not so sure I like the trunk on the elephant. Here's the goose. This is the one that caught my eye. Now I would change the colors, but the goose is really cute. But I would probably change the colors a little bit. But if they were using the Premier Basics chenille, they were very limited on colors. Even the cow. Like, did you just hear that rooster? That is the neighbor's rogue rooster that just came over here to visit my hen and is here every single day now, making all kinds of noise. They're pretty, but they're noisy. Anyhow, the cow. The cow is really cute. That looks like a lot of color changes in there. And I am not one to carry my yarn. I will cut and tie. So this thing would be full of knots. So I don't know how lovey soft that would be. But it's cute. I'll probably try it. And then the nice thing, it has like the dinosaur and the dragon, you know, for boys. Well, girls like dinosaurs and dragons too, but it just, those type of things make me think little boys. And the toad. Frog sounds so much nicer than toad. Aren't toads brown? He's a frog. Maybe they called it a toad because they needed a good name for it. That's Tessa the toad. But it's got a rabbit. You know, Easter's coming up. A fox. Look at the deer. The little fawn. That one caught my attention too. Now, it looks like quite a few color changes, but I think that's cute. I'll probably start with the goose, but when I really get a chance to look through, I might pick something different. But at this point right now, I'm thinking I would go with the goose. So that is Mama Made Minis, Knotted Loveys. And if it's something you want to check out, I'll put the link down in the description to the book. But like I said, if there was only one that you were interested in, on their actual website, you can purchase the individual patterns. Just $20, you get 16, or their individual patterns are $8 each. So if there were 2 or 3 of their patterns that you wanted, you're better off getting the book. Then you have them all. All right, so that's all I can share today. I need to go do a couple of things. I have to do a little bit of bookkeeping so I can pay my quarterly taxes and start getting stuff ready to send to the accountant. Then I have some buttons, orders that I need to fill. Only 3, sadly. But hey, that's gas money. But I need to get those orders out of the way, do my little bit of bookkeeping, and, you know, that clears my plate so that I can go play tomorrow down south and go look at some yarn. All right, you guys, I will see you in the next video.